Previously on Chaos Head Noah. Before I knew it, Girl A was right in front of me. She was peering into my face, eyes full of concern. What the hell is up with this girl? My body wouldn't move. As pathetic as it sounds, I was scared shitless. I had no idea what to do. My plan had been to catch a train ride to Shinsen and get home that way, but now I was starting to regret my life choices. Girl A asked me timidly. Was she acting all worried so I would drop my guard? You won't fool me. I won't fall for your tricks, you 3D wench.
なんだよ。
あなたが急に走り出して様子を見に来たら倒れてたので心配で。でも今は用事とかあるわけじゃないんですが、
If that's the case, then why have you been following me since this morning? She didn't want anything from me? What? That didn't make any sense.
じゃあ、なんで付きまとってくるんだ。
それは
Yes? She was getting flustered. I just couldn't get over how suspicious she was acting.
私、楠ゆあって言います。
Kusunoki Yua. Nobody asked her to, but she suddenly started introducing herself anyway.
実はあなたのこと一目見てなんとなく存在が気になって、それでついこんなこと聞いていいかどうかわからないんですけど。
何？
What, you want one of his figures? Yua got all shy out of nowhere. She was looking down and avoiding eye contact.
聞かせてもらってもいいでしょうか。あなたのお名前。
Oh.
名前？
Now she'd mentioned it. Yua had introduced herself to me, but I'd never returned the favor.
西條徳美。
I was a little embarrassed, so I ended up weakly mumbling it out.
西條匠くんですね。何年生？
2年。
私は3年。私の方が年上さんですね。
You heard the lady. You better address her as your senpai.
行くよ。
言ってもらえるんですか？
I had no choice but to nod. I couldn't think of any other way to make her stop crying. Still, it felt like I was stepping right into a trap. Yua seemed incredibly relieved. She took a deep breath, took off her glasses, and wiped away her tears.
断られて当然だと思ってたのに。西條くん、ありがとうございます。
Huh. She was thanking me. Seemed like I've been able to stop her from completely breaking down. Maybe I should be the one thanking her. Shit. How did I get myself into such a mess? Goddamn 3D women. You can never let your guard down around them.
行くとしたらいつがいいでしょう？
Wait. I just made a promise to hang out with a girl? Was this a dream? A delusion? I pinched my cheek to test that theory. It definitely hurt.
それじゃ長い間お邪魔しちゃってすいませんでした。足もし痛かったらお医者さんに行ってくださいね。
あ、うん。
I sat on the couch and watched Yua leave. She turned around and waved goodbye, then exited out the front door.
西条くん、また明日。
また明日だってさ。しかも手を振ったりして。
でも西条くんパソコン持ってましたよね。私も持ってるからメールアドレスを交換しませんか？
どうして？
そのフィギュアの発売日に取りに行かなくちゃいけませんよね。その時にまた一緒に。まだ一人でアニメ8に行く勇気はないから。
She was good.
それに
She was way too good.
私西条くんと。
I knew she had her claws in me, but I just couldn't turn her down. If I did, I'd look like the bad guy.
もっと
3D was the scariest fucking thing in the world.
仲良くなりたいから。
How is she doing this? Was it just because I was bad at talking to people? Or was she just too good? Either way, Yua seemed intent on not leaving until she had my email. The girl's gaze was locked onto the school uniform and textbooks as they were slowly reduced to ashes, each becoming clad in a crimson glimmer. Until only yesterday, they had been her school uniform and her textbooks. Despite having lit the fire herself, the girl did not move from the spot, perhaps out of a lingering sense of regret. That too only lasted a moment. She suddenly knitted her eyebrows and covered her ears as hard as she could. She gasped in agony. And yet, she did nothing more. The girl did not moan, nor did she raise any tearful complaints. All she let out was a series of ragged breaths. She shook her head repeatedly from side to side, as if to express a fierce, visceral objection. And as she did, her strength slowly started to crumble, and she collapsed to the ground. She fell on her backside with a thud, let her jaw droop as if utterly exhausted, and looked up to the sky with a dazed expression on her face. Minutes later, she was still in the exact same position, not having moved a single muscle.
あら、梢ちゃん、探してたのよ。もう荷物の整理はできたの？
Kozue promptly nodded and slowly sat down.
あさってにはもうこの家ともお別れなのね。
Her mother took a seat next to her, gazing toward the inland sea with a gentle look in her eye.
東京なんて行くの、梢ちゃんは初めてよね。いいお友達ができるといいわね。
Despite her mother's caring words, Kozue did not nod, nor even shake her head in response. She simply remained silent, gazing wistfully toward the still burning incinerator in the corner of the garden. And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So, I didn't get a full night's rest last night, and I kicked my ass at the gym for 2.5 hours, and right now, the only thing I've gotten my body to compensate for the lack of energy is a 4-ounce cup of ice cream, and now a can of seltzer water. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for today's chaotic episode and whatever fun adventures we're gonna have today, possibly involving dead bodies. Let's do this. So, Taku, how you doing today? Feeling any better from the day before? Another week came. Week. And with it, another school day. As usual, I head to school with my head hung low, depressed as ever. Well, I guess this answers my question. You're a real mopey boy, aren't you? Autumn was starting to come into full swing. The leaves of the trees in Shoto Park were slowly changing color, and I was starting to feel chilly in my short-sleeved uniform. I suppose it made sense that I'd be surprised by the change of season, given I rarely went outside in the first place. I still hadn't really registered that summer had ended. My weekend had consisted of non-stop ESO. Grim had kept on bugging me about Yua, but I just ignored him. I hadn't gotten an email from Yua since that first one. I hadn't replied to her first one either, so maybe she'd finally given up on me. I really hoped that was the case. Whenever I talked to Yua, my feelings always got all jumbled up. Those interactions almost made me have a little hope. But there was no point in being so optimistic. At the end of the day, I was just an otaku freak. My whole life, I never had any success with 3D, so I'd just given up on it. And that is why you will always fail, because you give up! Like a weakling! Please, don't give me any hope. Hope is good for your soul. Please, don't have any hope for me. Don't worry, I got plenty of it to spare for everybody else. Just as I thought that, someone tapped my shoulder from behind. I figured it was Nanami or Misumi-kun, but when I turned around, I was shocked. Good morning, Yua.
Nishijo-kun!
Were you in a hurry? Yua was looking at me with a smile on her face. An upside-down one, perhaps. Her cheeks were a little flushed. Why was she so out of breath?
後ろ姿が見えたからもしかしたら西条くんかなって思って走って追いかけちゃいました。
Has she really not given up yet? Does she still have some hope left in me?
おはようございます、西条くん。やっと言えました。土日を含めて4日もかかってしまいましたけど。あ、先週メールを送ったんですけど、読んでもらってます？
I found myself nodding out of reflex.
よかった。返事がなかったからてっきり届いていないかと思って何度か送り直そうとしたんですけど、我慢しておいて正解でした。
Seriously, what the hell did Yua want from me? Did she expect me to like her back? Did she want me to be her boyfriend? And then she wants to live out some intimate lovey-dovey fantasy together? Well, assuming she doesn't have some kind of nefarious ulterior motive for us in mind, I'm more inclined to think that she just simply wants a friend. There was no way I could do that. No way I could be that normal, no matter how hard I tried. I really wanted to, but it just wasn't possible. If you're determined enough, you'll find a way. I still didn't understand why Yua even liked me in the first place, which made it all the more impossible to trust her. So I just couldn't do it.
西条くん、どうしたんですか？ずっと立ち止まってるので。
Upon realizing that, I quickly started to walk away. leaving Yua behind. But before I could get very far, Yua had already caught up with me.
昨日西条くんのクラスに行ったんですけど、いませんでしたよね。もしかして風邪でもひいて休んでるんじゃないかと思って心配だったんです。でも元気そうでよかった。
たまにしか。
はい。
僕たまにしか学校来ない。みんなから引きこもりって思われてる。
Did that break the spell? You're totally disillusioned now that you know the truth, right? If so, I didn't mind. I never got my hopes up anyway. Oh, you liar. You totally were in the last episode. Go ahead and call me an otaku freak. And then after that, never talk to me again.
そうですか。でも今日は会えてよかったです。
I was left speechless. All I could manage to do was stare at Yua's smile. But when our eyes met, I got flustered and looked down. How was she not disgusted by me?
っていうか、たまにでも学校に来てるなら、西条くんは引きこもりじゃないと思います。すいません。分かったようなこと言っちゃって。
でも苦痛だよ。
だとしたら偉いです。
え？
I never thought I'd hear someone say that to me. What the hell was respectable about a total loser like me? Well, I guess if there is anything, speaking as a fellow nerd myself, your ability to budget for your massive figurine collection just by playing online games, I guess that's impressive, if nothing else. A gentle smile had spread over Yua's face. A smile so sweet, it could cure any disease. That was generally what I thought in that moment.
だって西条くんは辛いのに頑張って学校に来ていますから。普通なら普通は来られないですよ。
でも僕はオタだしキモいし。
私西条くんの話を聞くの好きですよ。
What the hell? What was with all this validation? Why did hearing it make me feel so good about myself? It felt like Yua was embracing me, all the way down to my core. Like she was giving me the right to be here, to exist in this moment. It felt like, when I was with her, maybe I could even be a normal person again.
大変予例ですよ。
I hadn't realized until now, but almost all the students were already gone. Everyone had made their way into the school building.
西条くん、それじゃあ私失礼します。あ、今日の放課後時間ありますか？
え？
Yeah, you want him to accompany you to the shop, right? Anime 8?
もしよかったら一緒に帰りましょう。
Oh, even better. With a timid tone, Yua mumbled her words, a faint blush on her cheeks.
放課後中庭で待ってます。もし気が向いたら来てください。あ、無理に来なくても全然平気ですから。失礼します。
Yua bowed elegantly, then darted off toward the third-year classrooms. Well, Taku, you got another golden opportunity to go home with a pretty sweet lady. If I were you, I'd jump on it. It'd be good for you. You really do need a friend. Besides, what's his name? I watched her disappear into the building. Then I pinched my cheek. Oh, wait, Misumi. That's what it was. Or Misamu? No, Misumi. Whatever, I'm sure I'll see him soon enough. And I'm sure eventually I'll remember his name. Get it memorized. It really wasn't a dream. Or a delusion. Wait, did I just forget to read a line? I guess I did. Oh, well, Oh, well. Oh, well. I couldn't focus on my classes all day after that. Or rather, I didn't bother trying to focus. I just rested my head on my hand, staring sluggishly into the autumn sky outside the window. My teachers, my classmates, none of them ever paid any attention to me. But Yua did. Yua was different from the other shitbags at the school. I couldn't stop thinking about her. I couldn't stop having delusions about her. Before I knew it, classes were over for the day.
Yo, Taku. 今日もデートか?
There you are.
この前のメガネのことはうまくいってるんだろうな.
Well, if you can call it a date, I'd say it went pretty well. Now, what's your name again?
おいおい。ニートだからって躊躇してんなよ。向こうがお前のこと気に入ってくれてんなら、付き合うか付き合わないかはともかく、やっちまうのが礼儀。
そんなことしないよ。
おい、なんだよいきなり大声出して。
岩とはそんなことしない。
は？お前まだ言ってんの？なんで最初から諦めるんだよ。そろそろ引きこもりから卒業しようぜ。
I agree with him.
僕は引きこもりじゃない。
And that wasn't even what this was about. Yes, it is, buddy. Yes, it is. But there was no point in trying to explain that to Misumi-kun. Okay, I guess I did remember your name. A guy who only thought with the wrong head. I think he's thinking with his good head on this one, my friend. So, ignoring how puzzled Misumi-kun was, I quickly made my way out of the classroom. The shortest path from here to the courtyard is through the skyway to the third-year building, then down the stairs. I think. I didn't come to school often enough to have a good grasp of on the layout. I didn't even know where half the club rooms were. So I was a little bit anxious as I walked down the hallway to the next building. Well, you look friendly. As I walked, I noticed a girl standing alone in the middle of the hall, staring up at the sky. Her face looked stiff. So despite her looking out the window, it wasn't in the wistful kind of way. Maybe she's having a staring contest with God. Are you winning, lady? She was obviously in everyone's way, but she didn't seem to care in the slightest. I know you can hear me walking toward you. Move along, will you? I'm in a bit of a hurry here. I was getting real Dokyun vibes from her. I didn't want anything to do with it. I'm getting vibes from her alright, but I'm not sure Dokyun is what I would classify it as. So I tried to keep my distance and slip by Girl B without getting noticed.
Oi.
Oi! Oh shit, was she talking to me? Fuck. Was she gonna threaten me and take all my money? She definitely looks like she could. Or take me to the Dokyun hangout spot and have me lynched just because she didn't like my face? Or worse? Nah, that's a fate that's too kind for you. Give me a fucking break. What have I ever done to deserve this? I looked toward Girl B. She was staring at me.
お前、誰だ?
That's my line. Did she just ask me that? I'm Nishijo Takumi. But this was the first time I ever spoken to her, so obviously she wouldn't know that. So I was right. Whatever she wants from me, it can't be good.
すいません。
I quickly bowed to avoid looking girl being in the face, then ran away as fast as I could. After bolting through the hall, down the stairs and out the door, I shot a look behind me at the third-year building. It seemed like the scary girl hadn't come after me. I was safe. To be completely honest, I was getting tired of all this bullshit. Wherever I went in the third dimension, I was always running into another goddamn trap. I took a second to catch my breath, and then looked for the courtyard. The courtyard was between the school building and the pool. It was so narrow, it was more like a path than an actual garden. There were a few evenly spaced flower beds spread across the courtyard. The violet-colored flowers were especially eye-catching. What kind of flowers are those? I wondered. But I really didn't have a clue. No. What's so troubling you? And standing in front of the flower beds was none other than Yua. She stood still, gazing at the flowers listlessly. Just like she'd promised. She'd really waited for me here. She waited for me. And me alone. Yua hadn't betrayed me. Maybe I could trust her. Maybe she really was the savior I've been looking for. You know, Taku, I've been starting to wonder this for a little bit while now, but, your trust issues with other people. Did somebody hurt you in the past? And that's why you're such a shut-in with, the deep-seated issues that you've got now? I can't imagine it was your sister. And from what little information I've been able to glean from you when you talk about your parents, they don't seem to be bad people either. So I'm just wondering, like, did some old childhood friend or something just screw you over in some way? Say a really deep-cutting remark towards you, and it just broke you somehow? Like, what exactly made you this way? Because again, going by even stuff that you said even in this episode, you weren't always like this, by your own admission. Being a shut-in otaku. You did say that you did express hope, over with your relationship with Yua. Maybe you could learn to be a normal person again. So, you were a normal person once before, at some point. But now you aren't. So, again, why is that? Yua looked up and noticed me standing there. And a moment later, her eyes widened. I got shy and looked away, frozen in place. Should I walk toward her? I don't know. You don't walk toward a lady, my friend. You strut! Why was she so surprised? Maybe I shouldn't have come. But as I was lost in thought, Yua ran over to me.
びっくりしました。
え？
西条くんが本当に来てくれるなんて。どうせ来てもらえないって諦めかけてたんです。でも待っててよかった。
I was taken aback. Yua was thinking the same way as me. We both had the same pessimistic mindset. But there was one clear place that we differed. Whenever I had negative thoughts, I'd freeze up and do nothing. But whenever Yua had negative thoughts, she'd take action anyway. I seriously respected her initiative. I wanted to be like that too. Then do it!
一緒に帰ってくれますか?
She timidly asked me, and I nodded in response. Walking side by side, the two of us passed through the school gate. It was a little bit embarrassing. It felt like other students were staring daggers at me, green with envy. Probably more like confusion that you, of all people, are walking home with somebody, and a girl at that. And the more aware of that I became, the more anxious I got. I guess I was right. I really can't walk home alone with a girl. Well, you're doing it. Well, you got a real pointy chin, whoever you are. We crossed paths with a teacher I'd never seen before. Or at least I assumed he was a teacher, since he was wearing a suit instead of a school uniform. Well, he's got his own unique character sprite, so clearly he's important, at least to some extent. But wasn't he a little young to be a teacher? Well, I hardly ever came to school, so it only made sense I wouldn't know what half the teachers looked like. Hell, sometimes I even forgot what my homeroom teacher looked like. Oh, come on, man. You show up to school 3 times a week, right? I would think even with that here, you should at least be able to recognize your homeroom teacher. The teacher in the suit was looking around restlessly as he headed for the school building.
どうしました?
Not knowing how to react, I quickly shook my head, returned to Yua's side, and went back to walking with her. We'd said we'd walk home together, but my base was only 10 minutes from school. Meanwhile, Yua needed to go all the way to Shinsen Station, so I needed to accompany her before I could go home. But by force of habit, I led Yua into Shoto Park. The park was something of a shortcut on my route to school, saving me about a minute each way.
西条くんって朝よくこの公園でパンを食べてませんか?
How'd she know that? Well, I mean, first time we ever saw her, she was following us around, right? So, and she told us when we first started speaking to her that she's been interested in talking to you for a while. So that implies to me that she's been watching you for a while. So it makes sense to me that she would know your breakfast habits and eating when it comes to eating in this park.
やっぱりよく見かけたんです。でもいる時といない時があって、今日ようやくその謎が解けました。学校にたまにしか来ないからだったんですね。あ、別にそれがダメって言ってるわけじゃなくてですね。素朴な疑問だったので。
Yua suddenly stopped, turning toward the bench I always ate breakfast on. Nobody was sitting there at the moment.
なんだかここに座っているあなたの背中はすごく辛そうに見えて。
Well, he is a really sad man, so I mean, yeah. It makes sense that he would look how he normally is 90% of the time, especially when he thinks no one is looking. Yua bent forward slightly, gently stroking the back of the bench.
何度も見かけるうちにだんだん気になってきて。
Wait, so you wanted to talk to him because you pitied him? Is that what you're saying here? The bench was right in front of the fence by the pond. Whenever you sat on it, you could just stare out at the pond, without needing to worry about whether others might be looking at you. It was right by the watermill, too, making it even more inconspicuous. That was another huge plus.
ここ最近は姿を見かけなかった日は心配でご飯も喉を通らなかったりしてたんです。
Really? I never really noticed her looking at me when I was here. Probably because you were too absorbed in whatever's going through your head.
バカみたいですよね。一度も話したこともない人の心配してるなんて。
No, it's not. I mean, if I saw a random stranger look seriously troubled, and I see a couple other accompanying red flags here that would make me concerned about their mental well-being, I would be concerned for them too. Complete stranger and all.
でも話しかける勇気もなかったので。
So her initial stalking was an extension of that. Or maybe not stalking per se. Maybe she'd just been looking out for me.
ちょっと座ってみてもいいですか？西条くんがどんな景色を見ていたのか、私も知りたいから。
Sitting on a bench with my previously unknown guardian angel? How could I say no? I didn't really have much of a reason to refuse. I nodded my head, still facing out toward the lake. You had placed her bag on the top of the bench and quietly took a seat. She then straightened her posture and gazed out at the lake. It was so incredibly quiet, so incredibly serene. And Yua was sitting right by my side. A gentle breeze drew ripples on the water, and it softly swayed Yua's hair. Was this what it was like? What it felt like to be a normie? This situation was so ordinary, so casual. So why did I feel like I was about to cry?
ここで朝食をとるのって気持ちよさそうですよね。
I looked at the side of Yua's face as she whispered that. If life were an eroge, this is where she'd confess her love. Then we lean in, kiss, and the good end credits would roll. And who knows, if the situation called for it, maybe we'd get straight into some exhibitionism. JK.
私も今度やってみようかな。
Yua turned and looked up at me. Unable to find the words to say, I looked down at Yua's bag. Wait a minute. Wasn't that the same bag we saw in that other computer room right next to ours the other day, looking up the New Gen murders? So, if I'm remembering the bag right, then that was you, huh? So what interest do you have in the New Gen murders? Cursing my inability to maintain eye contact with a girl, I stared instead at the three Jero Froggy straps hanging from her bag. Oh boy, delusion time! Hold on. Wait a minute. Something about this scene was really nagging at me. Well, I wonder if I should change it up and do a red one this time. And that thing was... what the hell, let's do it. The Jero Froggies. Characters that were popular with high school girls. But I'd seen those exact ones before, hadn't I? Where, though? I remembered correctly, it seems. It was in room 36. Whenever I went to At Cafe, I always used room 37. Meanwhile, room 36, the room next door, was always empty. But last week, the day I first met Yua, I've been shocked to find that someone was actually using it. And they were looking at sites dedicated to New Gen, no less. Then I'd come across Yua inside At Cafe, started panicking, then instantly made a run for it. No way. You can't be serious. Was it really her? Back then, in that room. I looked at Yua, who was still sitting on the bench. Her eyes stared at me from behind her glasses, and her gaze collided with mine. It was the first time we'd properly made eye contact since we'd met. There was still a smile on her face for a brief moment, but it quickly changed into a puzzled look. What sort of expression was I making? I couldn't tell. I turned my gaze toward her bag, toward the toy straps attached to it once again. I felt the air change as she gasped in response.
西条くん
A golden leaf fell off a branch, swaying in the wind, and ever so gently, ever so gracefully, danced through the air. All sorts of thoughts flashed through my mind. I didn't really understand why, but Gyro-Froggies were popular, so having a few of them dangling from your bag wasn't anything unusual. But on that day, Yua had probably been there, in room 36. And all this time, she never mentioned it even once. And to make matters worse, she'd been researching New Gen. I'd almost completely forgotten about those incidents already. But I'd been a witness in one of them. That gruesome spectacle revived itself again in my mind. And then... I saw a flash of the culprit's face.
これですか？ゲロカエルンって言うんです。何人かの友達にもらっちゃって、気がついたら3つになってまして。
Yua's smile had gotten slightly stiffer. She reached out for her bag, trying to take the Gyro-Froggy straps off of it.
最近女子高生に大人気なんですよ。私はあんまり可愛いとは思わないんですけど。
Yua's hands were trembling. She frantically tried to pull them off of her bag, but they just wouldn't budge.
変だな。どうして外れないんでしょう。ちょっと待ってくださいね。西条くんにも見せてあげ。
What are those? Looks to me like newspaper clippings, notes, drawings of human figures. I assume that this isn't actually happening, and I don't actually really need to start thinking too hard about what I'm seeing here, right? Right? Yua pulled on the straps a bit too hard, causing the bag to fall off the bench. The bag was unzipped, so all of her notebooks and textbooks spilled out onto the ground.
私ったら何をやってるんでしょう。
Just a few minutes ago, I might have even thought of you as ditziness as Moe. But at the present moment, I was just frozen in place. And that was because one of the fallen notebooks had flipped open. Tons of notes and newspaper snippets were scattered across the ground. It looked like it was some sort of scrapbook. And all the notes, All the newspaper snippets, everything, was focused on a certain string of cases. And its name was written there, clear as day. New Gen.
なんて。
My voice came out ragged. Yua, in a panic, started frantically gathering everything up and shoving it into her bag. Once she did, she held the bag close to her chest and stood up. She looked toward me and nodded, her expression intensely uncomfortable. Her smile from before was nowhere to be found.
それは。
Yua didn't answer. Why wouldn't she talk to me? Please, just say something. Anything. Even still, she said nothing. Which meant she must have realized that she'd been caught red-handed. I wanted to trust her so badly. And I'd just been starting to think that maybe Yua was actually on my side. That she could have been an ally.
誰も信じちゃダメ。誰の言葉にも耳を傾けちゃダメ。
In the end, Sarah was right. The 3D girls were the worst pieces of shit imaginable. Every last one of them. Yua never liked me at all. She only wanted to get close because she had ulterior motives. Maybe she wanted to turn me into the police. Or maybe she wanted to blackmail me. God damn it. God fucking damn it. I'd almost forgotten all about that incident. Yet here we go again. The police had never questioned me, so I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could go on pretending it had nothing to do with me. All I wanted was to get away from those stupid murders. So why? What the hell was Yua really after here? No, I don't even care anymore. I just wanted to run as far away as I could, so I went to turn around. But Yua quickly grabbed my wrist.
逃げるの？
Her voice sent chills down my spine. Her tone was so cold, it felt like my body might freeze over. It didn't even feel like she was the same person. It wasn't the Yua I thought I knew. And her grip. Her grip was way tighter than I had expected. It wasn't normal. Jolts of pain ran through my arm. My bones felt like they were being crushed. I tried to shake her off me, but she wouldn't let go. In fact, she was pulling me toward her, practically pinning my arm behind my back.
逃げるの？
From behind me, right by my ear, I heard a whisper that crushed any emotion I had left. With a shiver, I slowly turned around. She was staring at me. There was no longer any color left in those eyes of hers.
逃がさないよ。騙してたことは謝るけど、お互い様だし。あなただって隠してたことあるよね。
I'm hiding things? Only a single thing crossed my mind. Somehow she knew that I had witnessed that staking murder. She knew that I had seen the perpetrator. And that was most likely why she tried to get close to me. I knew she was good. Too good. She'd had me wrapped around her little finger. Everything she told me was a lie. Her taking an interest in me from just one glance. Her liking Bloodtoon. arranging to go with me to pick up the Sarah post-awakening version figure from the store when it went on on sale. All her nice little comments as she listened to what I had to say. Her wanting to get to know me better. Her being worried about me when I didn't come to school. Her saying she respected me. Now hold up. If what you're thinking here is true, and that she's really been after us because we witnessed the murder that Pink Hair committed, why was she already following us well before then? Again, assuming what I'm seeing here is actually happening, and it's just not another full-on delusion. Something's just not adding up here. Again, assuming this is actually happening. Everything that came from her mouth had been a lie. That thought killed me inside. I was overwrought with grief. I tightly clenched my fists. Fuck. Why had I believed a single fucking thing she'd said?
本当はもっと時間をかけて調べたかったんだけど、バレちゃったからしょうがないよね。あなたに聞いてもらいたい話があるの。聞いてくれるよね。聞かないなんて言わないよね。あなたは聞くべき。聞いて。聞くでしょ。聞かないなら。
I'm listening. What? What'll happen if I don't listen? You was almost a completely different person now. The gentle and carefree atmosphere from before was completely gone now. She felt completely unapproachable now. The atmosphere felt bizarre, like one molded from an utter obsession. Her tone was as composed as could be, though perhaps cold as ice was a better description. Her usual femininity was completely gone. No, I didn't want to listen. I tried to cover my ears. Don't do that. But I couldn't. Yua was holding on to one of my arms. Her grip was weaker than a second ago, but she still didn't let go. I couldn't move my hand. And while we were in that deadlock, she took a dark gray, shiny object from her bag and held it out to me. Oh shit. I was petrified. My heart skipped a beat. Any composure I had left was gone. I was so shocked, the hand that was going to cover my ear just fell to my side. Before long, Yua's voice, now sounding almost regretful, reached my ears.
この十字架に見覚えあるよね。
Of course, I'd definitely seen it before. Wait a minute. That's right, we took one of them home with us. She must have seen the cross that we took home with us and took it when she came into our home. I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I quickly realized. It might have looked like a cross, but it was in fact a stake. Fine, a stake, but my point is, I think she took the stake that we had. And stakes of such a unique shape were not something you'd see every day. Or at the very least, I'd only come across them once. That night, scattered across that alleyway. That night, as the demon girl nailed him into the wall. That night, as a corpse was being nailed onto the wall.
やっぱり知ってるの。知ってるんでしょ。知ってるに決まってる。知らないなんて言わせない。知ってなくちゃおかしい。知ってるよね。知ってるよね。
I frantically shook my head in denial. A disgusting cold sweat broke out on my brow. All I could do was wipe it away, as I kept shaking my head as hard as I could.
これあなたの部屋にあったのよ。あなたの部屋、ベッドの下、床に落ちてた。落ちてたの。落としたよね。それとも捨てた。とにかく落ちてた。落ちてたの。
Who the hell was this girl? When the fuck had she searched my room? Was it the day we first met? When my leg got injured and she came all the way to my room with me? She'd seen my Sarah figures and her face lit up all cute like a fucking Christmas tree?
この杭、開国製のすごく珍しい杭なのよ。それとニュージェネ第3の事件で使われた杭と同じ。同じなの。同じよね。同じなのは間違いない。同じよ。遺体を壁に貼り付けにした杭と同じ。
I was convinced. This woman thought that I was the culprit behind New Gen. She thought I was some kind of insane cutthroat murderer. Well, how do we know that she is not a murderer herself and is allied with pink hair? Did she think she was a detective or something? What, she call herself Kusunoki Yua, ace high school detective or some shit? Fucking kill yourself. Actually, that shit might have worked in anime or video games. But this was real life. And little did she know, her reasoning had a fatal flaw. I knew who the real killer was. I'd seen her with my own two eyes. I'd seen that demon myself. Sure, I didn't know her name, but she'd been wearing the Sume uniform, which meant that she was someone I could know.
だから
Yua suddenly hung her head and let out a small sigh. She loosened her grip on my wrist even more, then finally let go.
それ以上でもそれ以下でもないです。ただあなたが知ってるかどうかを確かめたかっただけ。本当はまだ言うつもりじゃなかったですし。
What the fuck has she meant by yet?
それじゃあもう一つ確認させてください。あなたには予知能力がありますか？
Precognitive powers. Are you referring to my delusion triggers, by any chance? It's the only thing I can think of in regards to me having any kind of power. Precognition. Noun. To know what is going to happen in advance. E.g., to foresee an unusual phenomenon. Also known as foresight or foreknowledge. To know what is going to happen in the future before it actually happens. Wait a minute, no. I think it's not the delusions themselves, but those brief flashes I will occasionally see. Like the ones involving that strange text I'd see every so often. Maybe that's what she means. The term does not refer to predictions based on experience, information, or statistics, but rather a special sense that transcends humanity's natural perception. It has not been scientifically proven to exist. The way it manifests differs from person to person, with the most common being visions and prophetic dreams. Belief in precognition has existed since ancient times, where shrine maidens were often heralded as carriers. Psychics and fortune tellers are the modern incarnation of this belief, but there are many false actors who enjoy taking advantage of the superstition, claiming that they have precognitive powers in order to swindle others.
は？
I couldn't help but just stand there with my mouth open. Precognitive powers? What the fuck? What did that have to do with the incidents? I tilted my head to the side. utterly perplexed. Wait a minute! No! It's the photos of Shogun! That one photo in particular that showed the murder that we witnessed well in advance. That could be a precognitive power right there, couldn't it? I tilted my head to the side, utterly perplexed. As I did, Yua's hand retreated into her bag once more, before taking out a picture printed in full color.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Wait, that's the same damn photo too. How do you have this photo? The picture was that grotesque one Shogun had sent me. Why did Yua have it? Well, I think the term I'm looking for is Occam's razor here, but Occam's razor, well, which if I'm getting my definitions right here, the most simple solution is the most simple obvious solution is often the most correct one. At least I think I got that definition right this time. But anyway, assuming I know what I'm talking about this time for once. The simple, most obvious explanation to me as to why Yua would have this picture is because maybe Yua is Shogun herself.
これ
あなたはどうしてニュージェネ第3の事件の再現画像を持っているんですか？しかもこの画像が流出したのは事件の前日です。あなたの使った PC にキャッシュが残ってました。
違う
I got that image earlier that day when I chatted with Shogun. I hadn't made it myself. I downloaded it, so it must have still been in my history. That's it! I'll just show Yua that. Still though, how had Yua even gotten this image in the first place? She said it had been in my computer's cache, but how would she have known that? When you had come into my room, she definitely had the time to snoop around my PC. Maybe she's got a power of her own that would allow her to do that without touching the PC.
まさか君が将軍か
Was she trying to frame me? It was all set up by Yua. She was the new gen killer, and now she was going to use me as a scapegoat in order to throw off the police, wasn't she?
助けて
It was all too much. Why did it have to be me of all people? Was it because I was a freak? Was it because I had no friends? Yua didn't say a word. She just shook her head lightly.
その画像はアットカフェルーム37の PC から拾ったんです。
In my room, then.
あなたの PC もできれば調べたかったんですけど、その機会はさすがにありませんでした。
Room 37. That was the one I always used. This bitch really did her research. Yua looked at me with a slightly apologetic look. It almost felt like she turned back into the Yua I knew, if only for a moment. And while that happened, she started fishing around her bag once more. But this time, she took out a page with text on it, and then held it out to me. I had a bad feeling about this. Alarm bells were going off in my head, telling me not to look. But there was no way I could ignore it. Because if I did, then I'd surely end up being framed.
それがあなたのすべてです。
What? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Did that mean she had all my personal information too? Was Yua some sort of hacker? I reached out and grabbed the printout, all the while my heart was pounding out of my chest. But to my surprise, the page didn't have my personal information. It was just some chat log.
あ
The two members of the chat log were Nineheart and Shogun.
そのログ変ですよね。
What was so strange about it? It looked like a perfectly normal chat log to me. I definitely remembered having this conversation with Shogun. The one thing that stands out to me about the chat log is that each image has one follow-up image after the other. Like, for example, I see a 168500, which is then followed by a 501, a 502, or 503, and so on. So, and she mentioned that this is the third New Gen incident. So there was two other ones that preceded this one. So put two and two together here. Shogun was showing us images of what I would assume would be all the future New Gen murders. No idea if I'm on the money with this one though. I'm just speculating. But it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. I mean, I don't know what else could be so strange about this, and
ナイトハルトと将軍の
timestamps. Wait a minute, timestamps you said? Ah, okay. Each image that Shogun linked was just 1 second apart was 1 second apart between each one. And as for mine, wait. Oh, they're almost 15 to 16 hours apart. But Shogun told us that that they were speaking to us from Shibuya, right? So why are the time zones different? VPNs weren't really a thing back at this time, right?
発言時間が全然噛み合ってないんです。
Huh? What the hell? How is this possible?
そこにあるナイトハルトは西条君。発言時間は9月28日の午前3時台。そして翌日、あなたはアットカフェに行ってます。西条君がアットカフェに行くのは学校帰りと決まってる。そして学校に行くのは週に 2.5 回。あなたのクラスメイトから聞いたんですけど、先週あなたが学校に来た日は月曜日、水曜日、木曜日。先週の月曜日は9月29日。将軍の発言時間と同じ日です。
What? What was she talking about?
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは。
For just a moment, Yua hesitated. Then she stared straight at me, before breaking the cold, unfeeling truth to me.
あなた一人の自作自演。
What? Don't look at me.
将軍は
Don't look at me.
あなた自身。
何も見たくない。何も聞きたくない。時間は一定じゃない。記憶には矛盾がある。視界にはエラーがある。地球は回ってない。これはきっとゲームなんだ。
I stuffed my mouth with some fish sausage as I turned on my PC.
僕は僕じゃない。
Before long, my monitor shone brightly with my Saratan wallpaper.
僕がいるべき世界は
I went straight to ESO and opened it up without an ounce of hesitation.
ここじゃないんだ。
Chapter 2. Click Me. Okay, so the scene after I hit the Delusion Trigger thing didn't immediately flash back to us sitting on the bench with you as though nothing happened. So I guess I should assume that that whole conversation actually happened. Right? Because if that's indeed the case, then, well, that was quite the revealing info dump, to put it lightly. Definitely give me more than a couple mysteries to really ponder about. Anyway, I assume this is you, Taku. Vroom, vroom. Quick, get on if you're going on the field trip. All aboard! Lying face down on the floor, Nishijo Takumi held a colored pencil in his hand. The one he was currently using was yellow, having switched from a red one only a few minutes ago. He joyously, ran his pencil across the spread-out sketchbook, which he was nearly lying on top of. Takumi loved drawing pictures. He would always doodle on the edges of his notes during every lesson at school. The morning news had been left running in the background, but since news and the like was boring to a 4th grader like Takumi, he did not pay it any mind. Vroom, vroom. Candy, get your candy here. Only 300 yen. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the driver. All ashore that's going ashore. We're heading out. Vroom! I just now noticed that there's skid marks leading from his sketchbook onto the floor. That's no good, Takumi. Parents will get mad at you for that, I'm sure. As he imagined the scene in his head, he made it actually happen in the picture. Times where he would get too excited and accidentally draw on the tatami beneath him were not exactly infrequent. Nanami, who would always read a manga beside him, would scold him each time he did it. She had some nerve considering she was the little sister, usually saying things along the lines of, "Oh, come on, don't get the floor all dirty." Even so, Takumi never became any less immersed in his art. However, when he got to the point of drawing the people in the window, his hand suddenly stopped. Then, he ripped up the sketchbook and threw it away. On the previous day, on the day where the autumn field trip had only been one more day away, Takumi had been suddenly told by his parents that he couldn't go. Even though it had been something he had been looking forward to for a very long time. So much so that he had been in a constant state of excitement for the entire day, wanting the next to arrive as soon as possible. That cruel declaration from his parents was something Takumi absolutely could not accept. He kicked and screamed, saying he would definitely go no matter what. But it was no use. His parents would not listen, no matter what he said, choosing only to repeat the same words and again. "You just can't. We're doing this for you, Takumi." Why, though? Takumi sank into his bed and trembled with so much frustration. He was very close to ripping his futon to shreds. He resented his parents from the bottom of his heart. For Takumi, that field trip had been a big, big event that could not have come soon enough. Everyone else in his class could go, but he alone was not allowed to. From his perspective, that was beyond unreasonable. Takumi was in a lonely world. Everyone else was in a super fun world. To him, it felt like he alone had been completely cut off from it. He could not forgive the teacher, his classmates, anyone. They had all left him behind. And he especially could not forgive his parents for their sudden, unfair decision. Those feelings transformed into pure hatred toward his parents, and toward all of his classmates. Takumi bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He muttered curses at them over and over. I don't think anyone should be allowed to go. The following morning arrived. The phone had been ringing over and over again since dawn. Each time his mother would pick up the phone, she seemed to be very shaken while talking. Takumi could not get even a wink of sleep. The clock passed 9 a.m. In her usual well-behaved manner, Nanami was sitting on a floor cushion, reading manga. She had told Takumi the day before, "I'm going to take a break from school to keep you company, Kay?" As if she thought it was the obvious thing for her to do. Their father had already gone to work, so he was not around. Their mother was very busy with the phone calls, and had yet to prepare breakfast. There was no need for him to go to school that day. Sullen as he was, Takumi opened his sketchbook and began drawing to distract himself. His feelings of rage refused to subside, so he tore up the sketchbook in frustration. As he did that, however,
あれこのバス
Nanami sounded puzzled. Takumi had thought she was talking about his picture, but her gaze was actually aimed at the TV. Don't tell me the bus crashed or something.
ねえお母さん
Nanami called out loudly to her mother, who was still busy with the phone calls. Now listening, Takumi followed his sister's gaze and stared vacantly at the TV screen. The screen displayed a scene of a collapsed elevated highway. Oh shit. A section that was only about 50 meters long had fallen. Regrettably, a bus driving along there at the time had caught up in the collapse, toppling it onto its side beneath the overpass. It was the very same bus that Takumi should have been on. The bus his classmates were riding on. From just a single glance, Takumi could imagine exactly what had happened. His classmates were on the screen. One child was sobbing, another had blood all across their forehead, and another was lying atop a stretcher being carried into an ambulance. The reporter was announcing the state of the accident with a grave look on their face, but Takumi did not really understand what they were talking about.
タクちゃん大変よ
His mother was standing at the entrance to the room, holding a cordless phone. Her face was pale.
遠足のバスが高速道路で事故に遭っちゃったんだって
それ今テレビでやってる
それで斉藤先生が
Died. For some reason, Takumi was already sure of this. Everything happening on the TV was eerily similar to what he had pictured in his head the night before, when he had been overwhelmed by frustration and hatred. There was only one feeling to occupy the depths of his mind, a peculiar conviction, one where he was sure that he had precognitive abilities. No one should be allowed to go. So, are they actually precognitive abilities? Or do I actually have some way to actually alter the future with just my thoughts? Interesting. Long ago, a show on TV that examined people who claimed to have ESP had been etched into Takumi's mind. A person with precognitive abilities had appeared on the show, shocking the world by demonstrating frightening ESP in the experiment. The experiment verified whether or not the psychic could guess which of the 12 items were placed in which numbered box. They did this by placing the subject in a different room, then proceeding to have them predict which cards with the item name on them belonged to which box. Afterward, staff members in the other room would place the actual items into boxes, then verify how many the psychic foretold. The person on the show received an incredible 90% correct, causing an uproar among the entertainers. As this happened, Takumi tested if he could predict things the same way the psychic on TV did, only to get every single one correct. Of course, he did not tell anyone else about this. So, as he gazed up at the TV, he believed that the accident was yet another instance of his precognitive predictions being exactly right.
クラスの半数以上の子が怪我したらしくて、はあ、なんてこと。
His mother tried hugging him as he lay down, but Takumi avoided her grasp and crawled to the corner of the room.
でも本当に良かったわ。
Her eyes swam about as she whispered in a hollow voice.
今日タキちゃんを休ませておいて本当に良かった。
Takumi felt sick. They were useless, he thought to himself. His abilities had not made a single difference. Just thinking about it made his heart turn to ice in an instant. After that, Takumi stopped speaking to others for a while. He quite literally went mute. He did not say a single word to another soul. His parents worried about him, and their already overprotective habits escalated even further. Finding them to be acting more and more ridiculous, Takumi thus decided to play the role of a mute boy. He thought of it as revenge against them. Due to his complete lack of talking, his mother took him to be seen in a psychiatry ward of the general hospital. And there, he was diagnosed with PTSD. Since Takumi did not actually have PTSD or anything of the sort, he never once took his medicine. He merely pretended to. His parents never realized he was acting. In the end, he didn't feel even a hint of pity as they worried themselves sick over him. Little jerk. Everything felt like a lie. The world was filled with falsities. It was overflowing with malice. It was out to get me.
いつもあなたが使っているチャットルームへログインして自分で調べてみてください。 私の言っていることが間違っていないってわかるはずです。それと私が言ったことは全部本心です。これだけは信じて。
I want to believe you, but I'm not sure if I really can. Because if you're willing to lie to me about why you approached me in the first place, it just makes me wonder, what else are you lying to me about or keeping from me? After bombarding me with her nonsensical theories, you had said that one last thing before she left. There was no way I could believe her. How the hell was I supposed to believe someone that had been lying to me this entire time? I refused to believe that everything there was me, like you had said. Everything she said about me being Shogun was a total joke. I wanted to believe that. But when I checked the timestamps in the chat log, there was no mistaking that the conversation wasn't matching up.
僕は無遊病なの?
That can't really be it, because the Shogun messages take place far later than when you were actually speaking. Anyway, sleepwalking. Also known as somnambulism or noctambulism. A behavior disorder in which during sleep, especially non-REM sleep, the subject gets up as if they were conscious, wanders around, eats, bathes, etc., but cannot converse beyond simple topics. Depending on the individual, the state can last from anywhere to a few minutes to half an hour. At the end of that time frame, the individual returns to the place where they were initially sleeping and goes back to sleep. While in this state, the individual is completely unconscious, and as such, has no memory of their actions once they wake up. This behavior often occurs in people with mental problems, and is often said to be caused unconsciously by stress. Sounds like that kind of matches up with my general understanding of the disorder. Problem was, during the time Shogun appeared to be posting in chat, I hadn't been sleeping at all. If I recall correctly, I had indeed been at cafe at that time. But I hadn't slept, so I couldn't have been sleepwalking. In that case, I wonder why I didn't have any memories of posting as Shogun. Maybe my body had been controlled by someone else. Which would mean... No, that's ridiculous. I felt that the best way to calm myself down was to escape from reality into the fictional world of VSO. The only thing I can think of that could clear up this discrepancy is Shogun is you from an alternate timeline that's somehow managing to reach you into this one. Otherwise, you got me. Neosekken, everything was fake. A lie. At the end of the day, its world was just part of a video game. But in Baselard, I could become the godlike existence known as Neidhart. A fabrication like that, a lie like that, was something I'd readily accept. I wanted to stay there. Nobody would mind if I did, would they? Or maybe. The world of VSO was actually the real world, and my own reality was the fake one. Just a game. In that case, Nishijo Takumi would be a fictional character, and Neidhart would be my true form.
ねえ、ナイトハルト。
I called out to the paladin standing inside the monitor. Was I controlling you? Or were you controlling me? Which was it? Could you be real, and I a mere avatar? What if the world I was in was just a game in of itself? If that were true, that would solve every mystery I was struggling with. What if, just like how I was staring at Nineheart within my monitor, what if someone was staring at me in the exact same way? Hello there. Whose eyes are those eyes? That would make them the player controlling me. If I did have someone controlling me, would it kill them to do less shit of a job? I barely know what I'm doing, man. I'm just winging it. Though I guess an avatar couldn't really complain. It would also explain how Shogun and I could be the same person, validating that theory. Come to think of it, it was kind of like what Lesolette was. Neidhart and Lesolette couldn't possibly exist in Baselar at the same time. I was the only one playing as them after all. And watch as you run into Lesolette sometime in the very near future. And then have another existential crisis. Maybe Shogun and Nishijo Takumi were similar and couldn't exist in the world at the same time. It was also possible that it was a bug. Speaking of bugs, encountering that bizarre girl in a murder case, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that happened, could have been bugs too. The image Shogun had sent me flashed through my mind. I gripped my head with my hands and frantically shook it away. I wanted to run away from everything. If, maybe, just maybe, there was a player controlling me. Please, reset me already. Just remake my character and start from scratch. Please. The waiting room of the university hospital was filled to the brim with middle-aged people waiting to be examined. The view hadn't changed from a few years prior. It almost made me feel as if time itself had stopped there. Moreover, everyone there looked miserable, and a smell of disinfectant pervaded the stagnant air. It was the kind of place that sucked all the life out of you, and made you wish for the sweet embrace of death in 5 minutes tops. I didn't like hospitals. The way the lobbies had countless people, yet the corridors felt completely devoid of them, had always freaked me out ever since I was a little kid. It almost felt like the corridors themselves absorbed and stewed in the stench of death. I always felt that was what the hospital truly represented beyond its outer facade. I even thought that some horrifying creature was lying in wait deep within the corridors. That was why I really didn't want to go in there. But there was something I had to make sure of no matter what, so I found myself reluctantly waiting my turn in line for the examination. Even when I tried to fully immerse myself in ESO, the bombshell that you had dropped on me continued to swirl around and around inside my head, and I hadn't been able to concentrate for even a second. As a result, my mind had been torturing me with all the various possibilities all the way until morning, and I had become genuinely scared that something was wrong with me. That was why I went to the general hospital, to get an official stamp of approval from a medical professional that said Nishijo Takumi is completely normal. I wanted to prove that it wasn't me who was abnormal, but Yua. I was used to coming to the hospital's psych ward, and yet, when the grill at the reception asked, "Is this your first time?" I nodded without thinking. Grill. Girl. Just girl. That's all it is. Just another word for girl. Okay. Ever since that bus accident, my mother had regularly taken me here for checkups. During middle school, my physician said I'd completely recovered, and I stopped going after that. This was my first time coming back in about 4.5 years. My first physician had been some senile professor who was supposed to have some authority in the field, but I only seen him a few times, and after that someone else had taken over, a student of his or something. Although despite calling himself the other guy's student, he hadn't been particularly young. To be honest, he looked pretty old. The night before, I was reminded of something a Dr. Tishima had said.
ここは病気や怪我だけじゃなくて心にも効く病院なんだよ。
Maybe I should go with a green one here. I hated hospitals, but that doctor had been very nice. He left a good impression on me, and I thought he was a good person. Well, even then, I'd still thoroughly fooled all the adults to the very end. That is, except Dr. Takashina. He'd seen through it all, and he was the one that declared me completely recovered.
あの人に調べてもらえれば。
I wondered what he'd say if he learned that I'd become an otaku freak. Nah, there was no way he'd remember me after all this time. There are those flashes again. It didn't take long for me to be called into the examination room. I expected to be waiting there for quite a while, but I guess I was wrong. Why had there been so many people in the lobby then? Maybe they were being paid to sit there, just to make it look busy. I wonder. The screen is all wobbly right now, so maybe whenever I select a Delusion Trigger, when the screen isn't wobbling around, that is when things are actually happening and I'm not just simply imagining them. Whereas if the screen is wobbly, it's not actually happening. It was a different examination room than the one from 4 years ago. But when I stepped inside, I was welcomed with a face I remembered dearly.
いやー、西条くん。
Dr. Takashina rose to his feet with a familiar smile, then reached his hand out to me. Realizing he was searching for a handshake, I hurriedly reciprocated.
また君に会えて嬉しいよ。いや、嬉しいというのは変かな。君にしてみれば、またここに来るというのは辛いことなわけだからね。
Despite it being 4 years since we'd last seen each other, he was incredibly friendly. My slight nervousness that I'd been struggling with was eased in seconds.
それで、今日はどうしたんだい?
He gestured for me to sit down. So I did. Likely due to all the tension melting away, I told him everything about what had happened to me, and what might happen to me in the future. I stumbled over my words many times. Probably because I wasn't used to talking so much. But Dr. Takashina didn't rush me. He listened to me intently with a serious look on his face, while offering occasional interjections to make sure I knew he was following. Of course, I also told him everything about Yua and the demon girl. I considered that doing so might be dangerous, but right now he was the only person I could rely on.
結論から先に言おうか。
After hearing everything I had to say, Dr. Takashina pondered for a moment, then began to speak.
君は正常だよ。
Yeah, sure. Okay. I believe you.
何の問題もない。
本当ですか？
もちろん。
Those were the words I wanted to hear more than anything, even though I doubt they're the truth. I dragged myself to the hospital for the sole purpose of hearing them. I was scared that he'd tell me there was something wrong with me, and I had no idea what I would have done if he had. But getting checked out by Dr. Takashina had been the right choice after all.
むしろおかしいのはその楠木さんという女性だね。西条くんの話だけで判断するのは難しいが、おそらくその女性は精神的な障害を患っているだろう。今後君に危険を及ぼすような行動に出る可能性がある。すぐに警察に通報しよう。
The police. True. That was probably the safest option. He was right. There had to be something wrong with Yua. She was batshit insane. The thought of her stalking me again sent shivers down my spine.
もちろん僕も責任を持って君を保護するつもりだ。
Well, aren't you generous? Looking at me with a powerful, reassuring gaze, Dr. Takashina clapped his hand on my shoulder encouragingly. He even handed me his business card, complete with his phone number.
何か問題が起きたらいつでも連絡をくれて構わないよ。24時間いつでも君のところに飛んでいくからね。
いいんですか？
当たり前だよ。僕は君の主治医なんだから。
I was on the verge of tears. I was truly grateful to be under his care. From the bottom of my heart, doctors as good as him were hard to find nowadays.
悪魔女のことについても通報した方が良さそうだね。西条くん、君の見たその女がニュージェネの真犯人で間違いないよ。これはものすごい目撃証言だ。
Dr. Takashina seemed somewhat excited, but you couldn't tell from his tone. As always, he spoke calmly.
事件は西条くんのおかげで解決だ。君は渋谷のヒーローだよ。僕はこの瞬間に立ち会えて実に光栄に思う。
That's right. Bow before me. I am your hero! I was a hero? This wasn't ESO. There was no way someone like me could be a hero. No way in hell. But when I imagined it, my face just about broke into a grin. Middle school girls, high school girls, college girls, MILFs. All of them would be screaming my name, and how much they loved me. I'd be renowned all over the world as one of the most charismatic people to ever live. Yeah, okay. Being a TV celebrity sounded cool and all, but I didn't want to appear in front of people, so I'd create a startup company instead. Then I'd become a hugely charismatic boss making the big bucks. I'd be surrounded by a harem of beautiful secretaries serving my every need, and of course, I'd trip all their flags and make them go crazy over me. I'd have a high-rise apartment in Roppongi, and hire a bunch of cute maids. It'd be like my own personal maid cafe. Of course, I'd be indulging in the endlessly passionate nightly services. JK! Just kidding.
まさに勝ち組。
Welcome back to Planet Earth! We missed you, Taku. Enjoy your stay. Or don't. Don't really care either way. I abruptly came to my senses, only to find myself sitting on a sofa in the lobby. Unable to grasp what exactly was going on, I frantically looked around the room. Beside me was a hunched-over old lady. Her eyes were covered in wrinkles, so I couldn't tell whether she was asleep or awake. I took a look at the clock above the reception desk, and I saw that I had been waiting in the lobby for a full hour. Damn, time sure flies when we're delusional. Had that all just been a dream? I hadn't slept last night, so had I dozed off while waiting? Glorious it would be if that dream was actually real. Talk about disappointing. In the end, I found myself waiting for another 2 hours before my name was finally called. Jesus, a 3-hour wait. Holy shit. When I entered the examination room, it almost felt like the same events I'd seen in that dream were happening again. Dr. Takashina even appeared almost exactly like he had in the dream. It was probably just that he barely changed since the last time I saw him 4 years ago. But this time, he didn't rise from his seat, nor did he offer to shake my hand.
今日はどうしました?
And unlike the dream, he didn't seem especially happy to see me again.
西条です。
ん? おお、これはご丁寧に。高階です。はじめまして。
Yeah, he doesn't remember you. He bowed his head cheerfully. I was lost for words. It's a pleasure to meet you. That's what he just said. He'd completely forgotten me. I shouldn't be surprised. It'd been 4 years after all. But I truly believed that Dr. Takashina, of all people, would remember me. Maybe that was arrogant, but I hoped for it all the same. So my heart was overwhelmed with loneliness and emptiness when those expectations were smashed to pieces. It felt like my very existence was being denied. Dr. Takashina started talking to me while making eye contact, but I averted my eyes.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと書いてあるが、何かあったのかな?
Right, I'd written that on the questionnaire, but it was all meaningless now. He didn't remember me at all.
別にいいじゃん。先生が覚えてようが覚えてなかろうが関係ないっしょ。最初の目的を忘れちゃダメ。
Oh, right. I hadn't come here to meet Dr. Takashina. I'd come here to prove that I was a completely healthy and sane human being. Our reunion was merely a bonus. Who gives a shit if he'd forgotten me? You, apparently. If Sarah Tan hadn't stepped in and gave me that advice, I would have come dangerously close to losing sight of myself. Phew.
自分でも知らないうちに外に出かけててパソコンで文章打っててそれを全く覚えてないなんてありえますか？
おお。
知り合いからそう指摘されて混乱しちゃって。
その知り合いの人が冗談を言っているっていう可能性はあると思うかい?
Yua's eyes had been serious. It hadn't looked at all like she was messing with me. At the very least, I had no doubt that you had believed what she said.
わかりません。
なるほど。ちなみに、その知り合いとはどういう関係だろう？恋人？
はあ？
Where the hell did that come from? And what did it have to do with anything? Was I missing something here?
いや、言い方が悪かったかな。じゃあ言い直そう。その知り合いの人は、君が意識もないまま歩き回っているのを実際に目撃したのかな？
Oh, so that's what he meant. I shook my head.
じゃあ、証拠はないわけだ。
I once again shook my head.
そいつ探偵気取りっていろいろ証拠を突きつけてきて。
そういうことか。ちなみに、これまでにも無遊病の兆候はあったかい？
いえ。
朝目覚めたらいつものベッドじゃなくて違う場所で寝てたっていうことは過去に一度でもあった？
いえ。
じゃあその知り合いに言われたのが初めてっていうことだね。
After gnawing weakly, I steeled myself back and spoke.
僕、寝てないんです。
もしかして怖いのかな。でもそんなに深刻になる必要はないよ。
いや、その。
That's not what I meant. But I couldn't figure out how to explain it. It was too late to say it out loud anymore. I was too flustered. After scribbling something on a medical form, Dr. Takashina swiveled away from me in his chair and leaned forward toward the back of the examination room.
葉月くん、ちょっと。
はい。
The young nurse rushed over to him, and Dr. Takashina showed her the form. As he did so, he whispered for her to do something, and she quickly withdrew to the back of the room. What had that been about? The doctor turned back toward my puzzled self. Then, in a gentle voice, he began to explain to me how sleepwalking worked. When a person falls asleep, they first begin non-REM sleep, before eventually progressing to REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is a deeper sleep, where the brain hibernates and brain activity ceases. Meanwhile, REM sleep is the kind of sleep where the body is resting, but the brain is active in a state that's fairly close to being awake.
無遊病はノンレム睡眠の時に起きやすいって言われてる。脳が通常の活動をしていないから普通の受け答えとかは成立しにくいけど、ちゃんと返事もするし、階段などを踏み外さずに上り下りすることだってできる。原因としては精神的なストレスを抱えてる時になりやすいんだ。子供に多い症状だけど成人でもよくある症状なんだよ。これで分かっただろ？深刻になることはないって言った意味が。
はあ。
But I hadn't been sleeping. Even though I hadn't been sleeping, I'd still done things I didn't remember. The time Shogun had been posting from room 37 in the chat room should have been when I was busy playing ESO. Could sleepwalking really be possible there? Nope. I wanted to ask him that, but he was already moving to a different topic.
無遊病かどうかを調べる方法としてはいくつかある。一番手っ取り早いのはここのベッドで寝てもらうことだね。ただ特定条件じゃないと発生しない場合もあるかもしれない。例えば自分のベッドじゃないとダメとか、意識がない状態で出歩くにしても 目的もなくふらふらと歩き続けるのか、それとも何らかの脅迫観念があってそれに影響されて何らかの一連の目的を持って出歩いているのか、それに君の精神状態についても特定の条件下じゃないとダメかもしれない。自宅のベッドの上ならリラックスできるけど、ここじゃリラックスのしようがないわけだ。どうする？とりあえず寝ていってみるかい？
I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. I'm honestly, I'm kind of confused actually. Like, you're actually just gonna let me try falling asleep right here, even though we're like, do you have time to? Do we actually have time to run this little experiment here and now with so many other people behind me waiting in line? Like, I don't know. It seems a bit impractical to me. But what do I know? I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. Then, after I proved I wasn't sleepwalking, I could try asking the real question I had in mind. The nurse from before, Hazuki-san or something, guided me over to the hospital bed located at the back of the room. As it wasn't a bed meant for sleeping, it was firm and uncomfortable. Then again, considering the sofa I usually slept on, that shouldn't pose any problems for me.
3時間くらいしたら起こしに行きますから。
This nurse was pretty damn cute. Shino Hazuki, I think her name badge said. As I lied on the bed, I took a quick peek at her face while being careful to avoid eye contact. Her baby face made her look kind of unreliable, and she even had this almost despondent aura about her. But she was doing her job pretty well. Wait a minute. You look a little bit like Yua. Are you two related? Or am I just imagining things? She felt like a heroine right out of a classic eroge. One with kinky hospital sex. Fuhihi.
できるだけ目は離さないようにしていますので、安心して眠ってくださいね。
Get your mind out of the biohazard bin, man. We're in a hospital. Basically, if symptoms of sleepwalking occurred, like I started wandering around on my own, she'd make sure to take care of me.
それでは、ごゆっくり。
After giving a slight smile, the nurse closed the curtain and left the hospital room. Now surrounded by a pure white curtain, I took a deep breath. All around me, I could hear the voices of doctors examining patients, the sound of nurses running around, and the sound of the door to the examination room opening and closing. Yeah, I doubt I'd be able to relax here. Could I actually fall asleep like this? Figuring I had nothing to lose, I closed my eyes. No matter what I did, my mind refused to think of anything other than that corpse that had been massacred and crucified with stakes, as well as the gory pictures Shogun had sent me. So I forcibly conjured Seiratan into my head.
Taki, 外出嫌いなのに病院来るなんてすごい。
I have a feeling if I go with the green option, I might get to see something a little bit on the raunchy side, especially since we got Seiratan here. Whereas, who the hell knows what I'll be in for if I select the red. So, do I want green for what will likely be a guaranteed fun time? Or do I want to be surprised and see what Red has to offer? I vote Red.
私前から思ってたんだけどさ、タッキーって実はすごく強い男の子だよね。
Sarah animatedly moved about in my delusion. Her cute voice chirped for me.
私、そんなタッキーの強さが好き。それに、タッキーは無遊病なんかじゃないよ。私、毎日タッキーのこと見てるもん。だからわかるさ。三次元女になんか騙されちゃダメだぞ。タッキーには私がいるっしょ。またあのコンテナハウスで二人きりで過ごそうね。ボケなす。
Free. Saratan. You're so cute, Saratan. She really was my ideal waifu. There wasn't a single woman better than her. I disagree. 3D? The fuck was that? It's like 2D, but 3-dimensional. And you can touch it. Ugh, I'm gonna go home already. I want to go home and have Saratan welcome me back with a smile. Wait for me, okay, Saratan? I'll be coming home soon. Don't do degenerate things to the pillow. Oh boy, everything's all wobbly. She opened the door to the examination room and was greeted by the doctor's smiling face.
今日はどうしました？
Ignoring the question, she examined her surroundings. The examination room was not particularly large. Wait a minute. Am I now having a nightmare about either Yua or Pink Hair Girl coming to visit me at the hospital? Is that what this is? Am I about to have yeah, I think I'm about to have a nightmare. Atop the doctor's desk sat one blank medical chart, then another that was filled out in a language that was not Japanese. They called her a demon. Everyone did. Even her own parents. Oh, that's sad. Had she always been a demon? Or did everyone calling her one cause her to become one? After all this time, it did not matter to her either way. Regardless, she had slaughtered 8 people over the past month or so. 8 people? Society called it madness, casting her actions into the realm of infamy. But from her perspective, they were nothing more than numbers. She was a demon after all.
何か気になりますか？もし気になるものがあるなら言ってください。どかしますから。
He was very sensitive to the needs of his patients. Something befitting of a psychiatrist. Finding this truly heartwarming, she opened the bag she had brought along. And from that bag, she slowly took out a 24-centimeter long kitchen knife. Here we go!
それとも、もっと広い部屋に変え。
The doctor caught his offer short upon seeing the knife. His face stiffened. Sensing his terror, she gave a gentle smile. The doctor would be the 9th. He had not been her intended target, but she might as well make the most of the opportunity. Placing her bag on the ground, she approached the doctor with long, soundless strides. Then, maintaining her fierce momentum, she flew toward the doctor's chest and plunged the knife deep inside. The knife slipped past his ribcage, reaching his heart. That single thrust had spelled the end of the doctor's life. The doctor, now no more than an object to her, collapsed against her body. For a moment, she supported his weight so that she could remove the knife, and then, once she was done, she knocked the object away of her elbow. The object was lying face up on the floor, its white coat dyed a deep crimson. The nurse who had run over to investigate the commotion let out a scream. In one large step, she trampled over the doctor's corpse and slashed at the nurse with a knife. Fresh blood danced through the air. While it was no fatal wound, it likely etched a rough scar on the docile-looking nurse's face. With a scream, the nurse clutched at her face and crashed to the floor. Oceans of blood spilled out from the gaps between her fingers. Ignoring this, she continued toward the back of the examination room. The 10th would not be the nurse. It was a momentous occasion. The 10th, double digits. So it had to be the target she had originally came for. Everything around her was chaos. The other patients and nurses had long since screamed and ran away. But she did not lend an ear to their cries. She simply searched for him, someone who was most definitely there. Her eyes stopped on a curtain. The curtain was partitioning off a section of the room that was between 2 and 3 square meters large. A section that likely contained a bed. There you are. Her heart trembled with jubilation. The sheer thought of killing him made her nether regions grow hot. She slowly closed the gap between her and the curtain then, instead of opening it normally. She slashed it open with the knife. And when she peeked through the newly opened gap, he was lying on the bed, just like she expected him to be. I found you. Now that she had seen him, she could not contain herself any longer. She pushed her way through the curtain, and now she stood right by the bed. He was sleeping with a slightly pained expression on his face. She combed her fingers through his hair, stroking it ever so gently. He did not awaken. Gripping a knife with both hands, with an underhanded grip, she raised her arms high above. Her target was simple. His heart. With a single thrust. Just like the doctor before you. I'll put you to rest. Overwrought with feelings of pure rapture, with every ounce of strength she had, she swung down the knife. Welcome back to planet Earth yet again. We missed you. And I actually think it'd be within your best interest to stay a while. I sprang up, only to find myself on the bed like before. My heart was pounding like crazy. I checked my chest. There was no wound anywhere. Nor was there any blood. I was unharmed. I examined my surroundings. The curtain was closed, and it definitely had been slashed open with a kitchen knife. I carefully placed my hand on the curtain, and when I opened it, I saw the doctor, Nazuki-san, collapse on the floor, covered in blood. When that delusion appeared in my mind, I began to tremble all over again.
夢だよな。
But I couldn't work up the courage to open the curtain. What if there was a sea of blood right past it? What if the demon girl was standing there holding a knife? The terror of those thoughts completely incapacitated me. Then, right at that moment, the curtain opened from the outside. I couldn't help but scream, and I tumbled off the bed.
大丈夫ですか?
I timidly looked up at her. Hazuki-san was looking down at me with wide eyes. Her white coat had no trace of blood, and her face didn't have any stab wounds either.
ごめんなさい。驚かせてしまって。起きているとは思わなかったので。
いえ。
God, I was pathetic. With my head still hanging down, I sluggishly rose to my feet. My heart was beating out of my chest, and it just wouldn't stop. But thank God it's just been just a dream. It was like watching a horror movie.
本当に大丈夫?
Hazuki-san peered at my face, her worry evident. I felt beyond embarrassed, so I couldn't look up at her. Just nodding was the best I could do.
少しうなされていたみたいでしたけど。
You could definitely say that.
怖い夢を見て。
そう。
What time was it? How long had I slept for? I asked Hazuki-san that very question. Surprisingly enough, I'd slept for a full 3 hours. I guess I'd been more exhausted than I realized.
でも、無遊病の症状は結局出ませんでしたよ。
Hazuki-san's reassuring voice conveyed that to me.
まあ、今日はたまたま症状が出なかっただけかもしれないから、無遊病でないっていう断定はできないですけど。
No. I really don't think I'm a sleepwalker, so... More importantly, I had to ask the doctor that really important question. But I couldn't see him anywhere. As I looked around, Hazuki-san handed me a blank form. Not really focusing all that hard, I took it from her and ran my eyes over it. It was a fill-in-the-blank style form.
それはあなたの心理状態を把握するためのチェックシートです。心理テストのようなものね。それを書いてくれたら今日はもう帰っていいって先生が。
先生は？
ごめんなさい。ずっと診察が続いてて。来週まで様子を見て、まだ改善が見られないようならもう一度来てくださいって。
Then again, it wasn't like he was my primary physician or anything, I supposed. He probably just given Hazuki-san a bunch of directions to get me out of here. Well, guess that means there was pretty much no point to me coming to the hospital today. I really wanted to ask Dr. Takashina about the someone that wasn't controlling me. Whatever it meant, it was a really chilling symptom, so I didn't want to leave without getting an answer. That being said, I didn't have the courage to demand Hazuki-san bring him back to see me, especially when she already looked so apologetic. Reluctantly, I decided to give the test a try. Guess I'd write about my symptoms on the back of the sheet or something. If I did that, I should be able to get another examination scheduled for next week.
チェックシートは質問に対してイエスかノーかだけを答える簡単なものですから。当てはまる点があったらイエスにチェックしてくださいね。今後の西條さんの治療に対する参考にしますから、じっくり考えて答えてください。
Hazuki-san went out of her way to explain the procedure thoroughly. The test had some strange questions mixed in, ones you wouldn't normally expect to run into at a hospital. It really did seem like some sort of psychological test. Would they really be able to actually learn something from questions like these? Hazuki-san stared at me intently. She showed no signs of leaving. But it wasn't like she had nothing else to do or anything. It was more like she was monitoring. No, watching over me or something. My nervousness of being watched made it hard for me to think clearly. But I guess she was just doing her job. Either way, I knew I ought to fill out the test quickly. Oh, hello. I can interact with this? When you have a business to take care of, you prefer to use emails over phone calls. Yes. Your ears ring every now and then. Yes. You have felt someone's gaze and turned around before. Yes. You have seen objects that are supposedly stationary move for an instant. Did I see that? I don't remember, so I'll leave that blank. You have experienced a premonition. Yes. While looking at a digital clock in passing, you've seen the numbers appear in sequence. Same numbers appear in sequence. I think so, with the Shogun chat logs. You've already cried once this month. Yes. You can masturbate using only your imagination. Well, this is Takumi we're talking about. I would imagine it's possible for him. When masturbating, you can visualize uninterrupted imagery. With him, yes, I think I've seen a couple examples of that. You can daydream without closing your eyes. I think I've seen examples of that. The frontal view of a car sometimes looks like a face. I thought I was the only one who thought that. But wait, Takumi never... Okay. I'll just answer these like Takumi. For the most part, except for this one. Because why not? You have a hard time going to the bathroom after watching a horror... Should I actually be answering these like as though it's asking me these questions? Well, then again, do these questions even matter? I honestly don't know what to do here. So I'm just going to wing it. You have a hard time going to the bathroom after watching a horror movie. Nope. You cannot handle haunted houses. When you start reading a book, you become so immersed in it that you lose track of time. Depends on the book. You believe that our planets inhabited by human-like creatures exist. The personality attributed to your astrological sign matches your personality perfectly. I don't know his birthday, so I'll just fill this in with mine. In which case, I'd say for the most part, yeah. You are prone to motion sickness. You believe there is a God. You have a strong ability to sense the supernatural. You have dreamed in color before. I actually remember coming across information of a study that was done not too long ago where people's ability to visualize elements, either in their conscious or unconscious, is actually linked to their IQ, or something along those lines. Where if you have trouble visualizing an element, like say you want to visualize an apple, if you can only visualize a vague shape of it in your mind, but you can't visualize the image of an apple right down to the smallest texture and differences of color throughout its skin, that basically denotes some aspect of your intelligence, or at least your ability to visualize elements to an extent. It's tied to intelligence somehow. I wish I could freaking remember what it actually said. It's been like over a year or something since I last heard about it. But it was interesting. Definitely was. You've been in a dream in which you knew you were dreaming. So, vivid dreaming. I think I've had that happen a couple times. You've experienced memory loss. You have had a hard time making eye contact with people. Merely the sight of sour food makes your mouth filled with saliva. You feel like yawning when other people do.
Hi, お疲れ様でした。
Hazuki-san thanked me as I answered the final question, despite the fact that I hadn't said anything. I felt pretty embarrassed at being watched the whole time. My face was probably bright red. Because of that, I avoided looking at Hazuki-san when I handed her the test. There had been no time to write my symptoms on the back.
それでは待合室でお待ちください。お薬が出てますから。
薬
They are prescribing me something? Dr. Takashina never said anything about that.
ええ、先生の指示で。弱い精神安定剤です。ぐっすり眠れるようになるし、副作用などもありませんよ。
Oh, wonderful. Thoughtful as ever, Dr. Takashina. And yet, when I realized I would have to wait in that lobby again, my mood was immediately sent spiraling. Well, I had no idea if I actually filled out that questionnaire like I was supposed to. If I was supposed to answer it like how I thought Taku would answer. But given a lot of the questions, I guess maybe it was supposed to be for me, personally, as the player. In which case, I'm not sure what any of those questions, depending on which ones I filled out, would have an effect on the story going forward. I would assume if there was actually some point to the questionnaire, maybe if I answered a certain number of questions or certain types of or certain specific questions on the questionnaire, it might influence the direction of the story in some way that I have yet to see manifest. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the point of it is. Or even if I filled it out right, like I said. If I didn't, then well, oh freaking well, I guess I'll see what ends up happening as a result of this later on, if anything ends up happening at all. But what I find even more interesting is our last conversation with Yuya and all the things she revealed to me, followed by that flashback. So, I was right in my initial suspicions that those pictures Shogun sent were precognitive in nature. But I didn't know that Taku also might apparently have some precognitive abilities of his own, which I guess would explain those flashing images I would see once in a while. And maybe some of his delusions are also tied to such a power. But not every single delusion I end up experiencing ends up happening, at least from what I've seen so far. So I'm not 100% sure what to make of things so far. I mean, hell, right now I'm trying to figure out exactly how to tell the difference between when I'm actually experiencing a delusion, or like what I saw with Yua earlier, whether or not a certain decision I select with the delusion trigger mechanic actually just influences how the story goes forward in regards to me. Well, okay, let me try putting it another way. I'm trying to figure out the difference between an actual delusion and something that's actually happening in reality whenever I make a decision with the delusion trigger. Because clearly, not every decision I make ends up spawning a full-on delusion. So I'm trying to make sense of the mechanic and how to work it. I have a feeling I probably won't start getting a solid idea on that until a little while later. At any rate, this episode's gone on for 2 hours and 15 minutes plus. Damn, I wasn't expecting it to last this long, but here we are, I guess. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just end it here, and we'll save more of the trying to figure out the mysteries of what we've been presented with for the next episode. If I end up thinking of anything in between episodes, I mean, I'll try to remember it and voice it around the beginning of the next episode. Otherwise, well, I guess I'll just wait until more information is presented to us and then start theorizing some more along the way, like I've been doing so far. At any rate, if you've managed to sit through this whole episode, well, I give you props for doing that. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. But if you enjoyed the episode despite the lengthy time and you want to see more content from me, then feel free to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Take care.